Hello, this is Janet Michael. In addition to hosting The Valley Today each weekday at noon on the River 95.3, I also produce podcasts, and I'm excited to introduce you to a new podcast series in partnership with Lord Fairfax Community College. Having provided higher education and career training for the past half-century, LFCC is tightly interwoven into the fabric of the Northern Shenandoah Valley and Piedmont regions. Join me every week for conversations with current and former students to hear their funny and inspiring stories as we learn about their journey to higher education, the role that LFCC has played, where they are now, and where they plan to go. We'll also talk to current and former professors about their experiences and best memories of LFCC over the past 50 years. Get every single episode as they're released on our website at theriver953.com under the podcast tab, or you can subscribe for free in Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, on Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for LFCC Stories. Hello and welcome to The Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Thursday. As you are listening to the show today, we of course have pre-recorded our conversation on the Zoom screen. I am staring at the smiling face of Larry Weiss. He is the executive director at the Community Foundation of Northern Shenandoah Valley. So Larry, the last time you were on the show, you were giving away money, and this time you're on the show and you're still going to give away money.
That's kind of one of the things that we like to do, and we're always happy to do so. Yeah,
you've got the greatest job on the planet.
I enjoy it. It really is. It's meaningful work, and I got a lot of satisfaction out of it. Absolutely.
So tell me about the Community Foundation of Northern Shenandoah Valley. What is it, and how is it that you give away money to nonprofits?
Sure, happy to do so. First of all, for those who have never heard of us, the Community Foundation of the Northern Shenandoah Valley, also known as CFNSV, because obviously that's a lot easier to say in many cases. We are the community foundation for the Northern Shenandoah Valley region that includes the City of Winchester and Clarke, Frederick, and Warren Counties. And within that service area, our sole function is to connect philanthropic individuals and organizations with local nonprofits to hopefully better the entire community. And we've been doing that for almost 20 years now.
And it's a great concept because if I want to give money to a particular cause, maybe not a particular organization, but I want to funnel money into, say, people in the Alice population, I don't have to do all the research and put together a grant application and ask people to apply. I just give you the money and say, hey, this is where I would like this money distributed, and you take care of all the hard work for me, right?
We can, for people who wish that service, we can absolutely do that. And within our family of donor advised and agencies funds, we are literally reaching every form of need within our community. And of course, we know there's lots of need, whether it's for housing, assistance, food security, health services, mental health services, educational opportunities for children. Our donor advised and agency funds respond to all kinds of needs within that framework and within our geographical area.
So I know you've got a grant process that is about to open in a couple of days on the 5th of April. Does it have a particular target for nonprofits to apply?
Yes, so there are a couple ways that we do distribute grants, and one of them, which I'll just mention, and then we'll move on to our grant program, which I know is the main purpose of our discussion today. Last year, for example, the Community Foundation distributed over $522,000 in grants within the service area that I spoke of earlier. That's a big amount. I see you, the listeners can't see you shaking your head, but
wow.
That is a pretty reputable sum. And just for kind of a point of how we've grown. So in 2018, that number was just a little under $270,000. In 2019, it was a little bit over $357,000 in annual grants. And again, in 2020, it was almost $523,000 in grants. So some of those are grants that come from our donor advised funds, where the fund holder themselves indicates to us what organization is to receive that money. And I can tell you that many organizations within the Front Royal Warren County area were recipients of many generous grants from these donor advised funds. But we also manage competitive grant programs. And that's what we really would like to talk about today, because beginning on April 5th and continuing through May 3rd, applications will be available for nonprofit agencies to apply for grants for the 2021 year from either our Cochran Youth Family Fund or the Paul and Martha Rees Fund. And many agencies in the Front Royal Warren County are aware of these grants, because last year, 11 of the 27 grants that we made from these funds went to agencies in the Front Royal Warren County area.
And this isn't something that's akin to like a membership thing. These agencies don't have to be a member of the Community Foundation in order to apply. They just need to meet the parameters of that particular grant.
Correct. It is a competitive process. So, an agency does not have to already have a fund with the Community Foundation to qualify to receive a grant. These are all competitive. We have a grant review committee that at the closing deadline will look and review every application we receive. And some of these members on the grant review committee, there are members from the Front Royal Warren County area as well as our other geographic areas. And some of the members of these committee are foundation board members, and others are community representatives who have no official tie to the foundation, but we tap their expertise in in knowing and being able to address the problems in our community to help us evaluate these applications.
So
But
is the registration process an online process? Do they have to make an in-person presentation? I sit on the board for United Way of Northern Shenandoah Valley, and we're in the middle of our fund distribution process. And I chair one of those panels, and we do site visits, and then there are presentations. How does the process work for this particular grant process for the Community Foundation?
Well, it's actually pretty simple. There's, as we talked about earlier, you don't have to be a member of the Community Foundation or have any previous association with us. If you are a 501c3 organization, you are eligible and able to apply for a grant from these two funds. Now, everything is done for these competitive grant applications online. So an agency has to have registered on our grant portal in order to access the application, but there's no fee to do so. And it's easily done at our website, which is CFNSV. And again, those are our initials, .org. And if somebody goes to our website and looks across the very top of the site, they will see a little blue box that says Grant Portal. And if they click on that, it will take them to a logon page. And the neat thing about the logon page, in addition to it being very simple, that's how an agency, if they are not already registered in our system, would create an account. There's a link there that explains how to do it, but quite simply, it's a very simple process. And once an agency is registered in our system, then they will automatically receive email notifications whenever we have a grant program open or distribute any other information about our grant programs. And the registration, again, will enable you to access the application when it goes online on April 5th. Now, I like to caution agencies, because invariably it happens that somebody will go online ahead of that, who has an account, and they will click into their account. And on April 1st, they'll call me up and they say, hey, we clicked into our account. There's no application there. And that's when I remind them That's exactly right. The grant application period opens on April 5th. And if you go back after April 5th, you will see the application. And once an agency goes in there to work on that grant application, again, everything can be done online. If you get 5 questions into the application process and your dog needs to go for a walk, it's auto saved and you can come back to it at any point. So we try to make it easy. And again, those applications are available through May 3rd, and then we will hit a deadline and they will go away, and an agency at that point will no longer be able to access it. But I really want to stress the importance, if I can, Janet, of making sure, even if your agency does not plan to apply for a grant in this particular case, even this year, registering and getting your agency listed in our grant portal automatically means that anytime we have a grant program that we are distributing information and disseminating information on how you can apply, what the qualifications are, any of that stuff, if you're registered in our portal, you will automatically receive notification. So it's the best way that agencies can guarantee that, they don't miss something. And as a perfect example, last year's process, which we originally thought would unfold as they usually do, was interrupted by this little thing called COVID. So, those agencies that were registered, and again, thankfully, pretty much most of them were, got information immediately that the deadlines had changed because of COVID. We wanted to give agencies an opportunity to, first of all, review what their needs might be, as well as, in that case, we were able to secure some additional funds to, relate specifically to the COVID purpose. So not that we anticipate any change in the dates or the process this year, but if there were to be any, notification through the portal would be how that would happen primarily.
Well, and it seems like the biggest deal, like you mentioned, is get your name in the system, get registered, get your nonprofit in the system, because I have never seen or met anyone who runs a nonprofit that is okay if they miss out on getting a grant. So this is like the smartest, easiest way, I would think, to just go ahead and get your name in the hat. So when things come up, you're automatically notified and you don't miss out on something because you didn't know it was happening.
Exactly.
Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, can we talk about this particular grant, who it's for, who should apply, and where the money has to go?
Absolutely. Be happy to.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation on the Zoom screen with Larry Weiss. He is the executive director of the Community Foundation of Northern Shenandoah Valley. During the break, go to cfnsv.org and get yourself registered. We'll come back and talk more with him in just a couple of minutes.
Got a financial decision to make or a goal to reach, but you don't know where to start? You've come to the right place. Introducing Quick Money Chats with the Northern Shenandoah Valley Financial Education Program. Visit tinyurl.com/quickmoneychat to schedule a virtual chat with a staff member or trained volunteer. We won't tell you what to do, but we will give you the tools you need to choose wisely. And because Virginia Cooperative Extension is part of Virginia Tech and Virginia State, your land-grant universities, you can be sure that our information is credible and trustworthy. And you'll know that we aren't trying to sell you something. Maybe you want to improve your credit score, or reduce your banking overdraft fees, or even figure out if you can afford to buy that car. Sorting through tons of information on the internet can be overwhelming, and sometimes it can be hard to know who to trust. Schedule a Quick Money Chat and get the information you need to take action. Go to tinyurl.com/quickmoneychat and get financial education personalized for you.
Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Thursday. As you are listening to the show today, we, of course, have pre-recorded our conversation on the Zoom screen. We are chatting with Larry Weiss. He is the executive director at the Community Foundation of Northern Shenandoah Valley. And Larry, you'll understand this as an old radio guy. A lot of times people will ask me, how come you always say that you're pre-recording? And it's an FCC thing. I am not allowed to make it seem like this show is a live show when it is not a live show. But I will tell you, I have reached out to Zoom and said, y'all need to give me a free subscription because y'all get a plug a couple of times every day on the radio show. Because
I thought that I thought they were your titles. I thought Zoom was your title sponsor.
Right? But a lot of people don't understand. I am required by FCC rules to tell them that I am pre-recording this conversation. So there is no mistake that we are live.
Would you like me to do the disclaimer? Portions of the following program have been pre-recorded.
And it's funny too, because when this first was brought to mind, because I'd pre-recorded for years, even before Zoom came along and I was doing it from my kitchen. But there was a radio station somewhere in another state that had a guy that did a show and he had passed away, and they had aired a show after he passed away, and listeners called in and complained that it was purporting itself to be a live show when they knew this guy had died, and they got a $50,000 fine from the FCC. So pre-recorded. So tell me about, we're talking about the grants. You guys have a grant funding period that is opening on Monday. As people are listening to the show on Thursday, the grant period is going to open on Monday, April 5th. Are there particular nonprofits that should apply? I mean, who are the two organizations that are going to be releasing these funds?
Sure. Well, let me tell you first, the one of the two funds that will be distributing grants as part of this application period is the Cochran Family Youth Fund. Now, grants from this fund are made on an annual basis to improve the quality of life for children and the communities in which they live by providing financial assistance for educational, athletic, academic, social, civic, and community-based activities, again, that involve or support children. So, that's going to be the main emphasis for applications for these grants, are going to be grants that will be designed specifically around children's programming. Now, the Cochran Family Youth Fund was actually established by the generosity of Douglas Cochran. Residents from up in the northern part of the valley may recall that his parents, John Cochran Sr. and his mother, Clarice Cochran, owned and operated the B&C Bakery on Indian Alley in downtown Winchester from 1928 until the 1950s. Doug Cochran, who we work with specifically on these grants, attended Hanley High School in the mid-1990s and was very active in the community. He was trained as a CPO and worked up in Parkersburg, West Virginia for many years. And again, he and his family established this fund to honor their parents. Cochran Youth Family Fund grants are typically in the $2,000 to $4,000 range. I don't know exactly, but I would anticipate we will be probably distributing $15,000 to $20,000 from the Cochran Fund in terms of 2021 grants. And again, although these are designed specifically for youth, they have funded programs in the Front Royal Warren County area in the past from this Cochran Fund, including programs for the Phoenix Project and the Samuel Public Library.
I talk to Michelle at Samuel Public Library every Friday morning on a coffee break with the Front Royal Chamber.
Yep, I know you do, and they're doing a great job there. And that library has been supported over the years by a number of grants from the Community Foundation of the Northern Shenandoah Valley. Now, the second grant program that will be opening up on the 5th of April are grants from the Paul and Martha Rees Fund. And these grants are a little bit broader in nature. As you recall, we mentioned the Cochran Family Youth Fund. Those grants are specifically aligned toward youth and children related programming. The Paul and Martha Rees funds look at broader compelling needs and opportunities in the community. So they are looking at charitable grants to organizations that are providing services, again, within the City of Winchester, as well as Frederick, Clarke, and Warren Counties. And these categories, again, are broader in definition and would include programs related to education, the fine arts, social sciences, community development, recreation, natural resources, and health and wellness. So you can kind of see there that while some organizations might have a grant that could qualify for either a Cochran or a Rees grant, if it was a program that was looking, for instance, to extend educational, recreational, or health services to children. But if it was looking to do that for adults, then it would strictly fall within the category of the Rees Fund grants. And those grants are, again, typically in the $2,000 to $4,000 range. We distributed close to $25,000 in grants from the Paul and Martha Rees Fund last year. And some of those grants went to things like the Thompson Playground Project, St. Luke's Dental Clinic, the Card Changing Lives Organization, House of Hope, and we were also able to support the Warren County Habitat, St. Lucie Food Pantry, and Front Royal CCAP as well.
So if an organization serves both of those, can they apply for 2 grants, one in each category, or can they do they have to pick a lane and stay in it?
Well, actually, they could do one of 2 things. First of all, is they could apply for 2 specific individual programs, one for a Cochran grant and one for a Rees grant. Or if they have one program, they could indicate that they would wish to be considered for either.
And that makes it a little bit easier. So yeah, they
Yeah.
can get it for either or depending on what their request actually involves.
Yeah, and without, while it isn't always the case, sometimes giving our grant review committee the flexibility to consider the program in either lane, particularly if it does involve children, obviously, not that it improves somebody's chances to be funded per se, but, it does give us a little bit more flexibility because, as I'm sure you would imagine, at the end of the day, there will be many more applications than we're able to fund. And the first thing we always tell everyone in the process of, announcing the grants and, notifying those agencies that unfortunately will not be able to receive grants, that, the fact that we did not offer someone a grant does not indicate that it is not a viable, worthwhile project in most cases. It just indicates that unfortunately the need is always greater than the resource. And, we're not, unfortunately, the only organization for which that is true.
So how involved is the grant application? I mean, is it going to take days and days to fill out? What kind of information are you looking for when a nonprofit goes to fill out one of these applications?
Well, there's going to be some basic information that we require that's probably part of, most grant applications, which is, some financial information, some information on your board. If you're applying for a grant for a specific project, we're going to ask you to be descriptive about that project, who it's going to serve, how it is going to be implemented, who is going to be responsible for implementing the program, and what is the budget for doing so. So we can see if, does the budget make sense? Is our, funding level going to be, sufficient? And, it enables us to make some, judgments as to the fiscal viability of a project that might be, uh, seeking funding.
So it's like a little mini business plan for your project that you're going to submit to see, look, this is a viable project. This is how many people it's going to impact for this much money. It kind of makes sense. I mean, and most of these nonprofits, I'm guessing this won't be their first grant rodeo. So they will have all of that information at their fingertips.
Right, exactly. So what I would say is that, it's a pretty simple process in that if an agency, has filled out at least one other grant in their history, it doesn't have to have been 2000, they're going to find our process easy enough to manage and maneuver. And of course, our staff is always here via, phone call or an email to answer any questions that anyone might have about doing it. But, for somebody who even has a small amount of experience in grant writing, there's nothing overly difficult or onerous about our process. And again, the fact that everything is done online makes it very, very easy for an agency to, respond and submit.
And the grant application window closes on May 3rd. It opens on April 5th. It closes on May 3rd. When do you expect to have a decision for these nonprofits to let them know if they've been approved?
Well, generally the review process takes a good bit of the summer. And, at the end of the summer, we'll submit recommendations to the board, but generally we make those announcements sometime in September. And again, last year it was a little different. We did everything via Zoom. I would imagine that sometime toward the latter part of September, we would have scheduled our annual thank you luncheon, at which points we will formally introduce some of our donors, announce the grant recipients, and physically hand them a check at that time.
And this isn't one of those things either where you hand them the check and you never hear from them again. They have to report back outcomes and kind of give you an idea of, this is what we asked for the money for, this is what we used it for, and this is how it all ended up. So there is some reporting on the back end that's required as well.
Yeah. So, and again, this is all done online, but you're exactly right. So prior to actually receiving the check, the agency does have to actually sign on and accept the grant and indicate that they will utilize the money in the, for the purpose for which it has been granted. And then there is a short follow-up report that is due at the end of the grant year period to close out that grant and actually officially close it. And again, the agency is certified that they have utilized the funds and is reported back on to how successful they were, how many people they served. And this information is very important because we use this information to go back to our fund holders. And, to the extent that we can demonstrate that their generosity has filled the need and really served a broad portion of our community, that only motivates them to do more, contribute more, and provide more. So, there's a circle that is, literally the never-ending circle of philanthropy. So, that's why, these follow-up reports are so important, not just to, verify the results of one year's grant, but really to provide an ongoing motivation to our fund holders to continue to fund these programs.
So the number one thing is make sure you're registered. So CFNSV for Community Foundation Northern Shenandoah Valley.org. Go there and get registered. And then once you're registered and this window opens on Monday on April 5th, that's when they'll have access to the actual application that they can fill out at their leisure as long as it's finished and done by May 3rd.
Absolutely. That is a perfect recap.
So you're going to have a flood of people going in to register, and you're going to be like, man, Janet made my work so much harder because now I have all of these nonprofits to process.
If you ever want to do a job swapping for a day, I'd be happy to come back down there and sit behind a board again. I'd love that. And you obviously have this down. So, you can sit here and answer questions and explain how our grant processes work. And Janet, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. You do such a great job and provide such a wonderful service to the community. We're happy to have you as one of our partners.
Well, thank you for that. And it's because I have people like you that can come on the show and do so much for our community. My job is the easy part. You guys are doing all the hard work behind the scenes. I'm just telling everybody about it.
Yeah, you're too kind.
Well, thank you for meeting me on the Zoom screen today and giving me all the details. I will put everything up on the show notes page, including the link to cfnsv.org. And Larry, will you come back in late September, early October and tell me who won?
Anytime.
Fantastic. Well, tomorrow, speaking of nonprofits, my conversation is with somebody from Froggy's Closet. So if you want to know more about Froggy's Closet, and I believe they have a fundraiser that's coming up that we're going to be talking about, then meet me back here tomorrow, just a few minutes after noon.